I'm a member of Socialist Alternative group. And if you can't hear me, just let me know, I'll try to speak louder. Okay, today I'm going to speak about LGBT in Russia, and I think it's a great moment to speak here and today because 5 years have passed since our homophobic law was passed at the federal level in 2013. And many organizations and media has done kind of sum up of this 5 year, and it's very cool because a lot of different social processes took place in Russia at this time. And I want to start with the legal position of LGBT in Russia and what have changed since that time. The propaganda law effectively blocked street activists, as according to this law it's prohibited to display any LGBT symbols in the street because there may be children and they may see it, which is prohibited by law. So it became more difficult for us to work with people to defend our rights on the streets. However, this propaganda law hit LGBT teenagers more harder, since after this law came into the force, a lot of young people just lost the opportunity to learn information about LGBT, to get any emotional support, psychological support from some competent people, and even different media, if they write about LGBT, there is a strict age limit, 18 and above. So you should prove that you're adult to read some information about LGBT in Russia these 5 years. And last year, or the beginning of this year, LGBT website Parny Plus was prohibited by Russia just to be displayed any information about LGBT. And every day homophobia takes place too. LGBT people are afraid to come out to their relatives, to their colleagues and friends because they're afraid of the negative reaction, they're afraid of any attacks which take place too. And so many people are forced to live in closets just to hide who they are, just to be normal in our society. And of course, I cannot avoid the problem of transgender people in Russia because they are in a very difficult situation. Not because, not only because of the fact that it's very difficult to hide who they are, because the transition process and different things, but also in Russia it's very difficult to change documents, to change gender in passport, and so you should go to the office to apply for this change, so they reject your apply, so you can go. You should go to the court, and court should decide if you deserve or not deserve to change your gender documents, and so it may take a year just to have these papers. And of course, transgender people are attacked the most in Russia because of their different, I don't know, people who hate them. And I'd like to say that this hate expressed against LGBT in Russia has a very obvious reason today, because state policy turned towards traditional values, or so-called spiritual bounds, духовные скрепы. And after 2013, there was an introduced subject at schools, fundamentals of Orthodox culture. And these lessons, school children are taught different history, culture, and core values of Orthodox Christianity. But in fact, this time is used to impose a patriarchal and homophobic, heterocentric ideology of our state, and children just get it in the very early age, and this ideology excludes the existence of LGBT. Not to mention the fact that in Russia there are such republics where people of other religion prevail, and so they also should, for example, Muslims, Buddhists, they have to attend these lessons and learn different Orthodox values. And also, the Constitution of Russia declares that Russia is a secular state, and no religion can be established as a obligatory one, and all the religions are separate from state and equal before the law. But in fact, we see that it doesn't work here. And on the background of state support of homophobia, right-wing forces have intensified their activity. They are sanctioned to attack LGBT and other people who they suppose to be strange or incorrect in their picture of the world. And they are trying to establish their own correct order of country. And now the most famous, so to say, pro-government organization, nationalist groups are Serb and not, who propagandize resistance to Western and American values and influence. They disrupt anti-war and other protests, which include also LGBT events. They smash human rights memorials in the streets. They attacked us in different demonstrations. They attack also common LGBT people who do not look like common people, so to say. And what is important to say that they are not punished by the police, by the state, and police do not act up when they even see how these nationalists attack people on the streets. For example, we've been on the demonstrations for the freedom of internet last year, and my friend brought an LGBT flag, and she was attacked by nationalists, and police just ignored it. But when we took the flag from nationalists, my friend and I, we were detained, we were arrested by police, and I asked the policeman, why are you arresting me? And he just answered, for LGBT. But we do not have the law which prohibits just LGBT, and the rainbow flag is not considered to be prohibited symbol on the streets. So they just do it because you cannot just say them anything. But all these nationalists, they are supported by the government, so they are not punished for their actions. So I would like to come on and tell about secret prisons and tortures in Chechnya. This is the very hard case which came up in 2017. On the 1st of April 2017, we learned about the tortures and murders in secret prisons of Chechnya. Novaya Gazeta, it is a media they published an investigation that gay people are murdered in Chechnya, and it seemed like April Fool's joke, but it turned out to be truth. Even some experienced activists didn't believe in this because it's very hard to imagine how it can be at all. And the next day, about 20 activists in Moscow, they gathered together and decided to discuss and decided to act, not just believe it be, and to find possible actions in this situation. And they formed a spontaneous rescue committee, which played an important role at the beginning of the campaign. Of course, all the activists were afraid not only for the people who were in Chechnya, but they were afraid for themselves too, because it is very strong. I don't know how to say diaspora. Community, yeah, Chechen community in Moscow too, so activists can be attacked too. But in international solidarity and resonance on media helped us to do this campaign, and a month later in St. Petersburg, in Moscow, and different other Russian cities, we started campaigning. We made different street actions and to express our outrage and to demand the justice. We were detained from the streets, there were some court cases, but Chechen case is not closed yet, and I want to give some more information. Louder? Okay, I'll try. In July 2017, Novaya Gazeta, it's a media, published a list of supposedly dead people. There were about 30 names. And then Russian LGBT Network, it's an organization, they got more than 100 people out of Chechnya, and more than 100 of them fled Russia to different countries because it was very dangerous for them to stay in Russia. And 3 of these evacuated people were kidnapped by their Chechen relatives and turned back to Chechnya, where they were supposedly killed. And what we did in this situation, we made a petition which gathered more than 2 million signs in different platforms, and dozens of protests were held in Western Europe, North America and other parts of the world, which gave us force to work further. And our prosecutor office started the check, the investigation check, and there were 18 volumes of this case that they gathered by the check was always delaying and didn't bring any analysis and any results. They just said, oh, it's okay, there are no any secret jails, there are no any tortures, it's okay, go further. And in the end of 2017, there was an information that in these jails are imprisoned women and transgender people too. And now Russian LGBT network still works to get out all these people out of Chechnya, but we all can understand that you cannot just take all these people from this place, so this case still takes place. And what conclusions we may make here is that Chechnya has features of a unique repressive regime which Ramzan Kadyrov, the leader of Chechnya, has established. In this society, LGBT people turned out to be the most oppressed community, but not single one. Previously, human rights activists, journalists, women, drug users, and many other groups already have become the target of this repressive regime. They were repressed. All the people who just a regime doesn't like, they just imprison, and you can do nothing with it. And the problem is not in the mentality of Chechen or Russian people. The problem is in politics and politicians who let these things happen. And the responsibility for this Chechen tragedy lies both on direct executors with our Kremlin sponsors of this region. And for a long time, Kadyrov, the leader of Chechnya, and his people have gotten away with different crimes, including the murders of such human rights defenders as Anna Politkovskaya, Natalia Estemirova, Boris Nemtsov, and many others. The patronage of the Kremlin and state homophobia in Russia in recent years have prepared the ground for this gay hunt in Chechnya, so people can accept this as a normal thing. However, LGBT people in Russia accepted this challenge very well, and this time the crimes of Kadyrov's team, gang, I don't know, didn't manage to hidden these crimes, and this is our win, I think. And people all over the world learned about this tragedy and showed their solidarity, showed that we can change this thing. And by efforts of a huge number of activists and just people, we have managed to pull out things out of people out of there who were in danger. The international public campaign and mass protests played a crucial role in this case because solidarity of organization and communities helped to overcome different bureaucratic or material difficulties and allowed us to create the necessary pressure on our authorities to start this investigation check, to make our Okay, our president's helper with the human rights to go to Chechnya and to see what happens there. But of course she said that I've seen this gay Chechen people, they are okay, but the fact that we made them go there and to make some statements after this trip, it plays a great role, I think. And so the gay hunt hasn't stopped yet, and we need to make Moscow to punish these people who did this and stop this tragedy. And now we may say that Chechen authorities are unlikely to act so brazenly and on such a large scale. So they are trying to hide their crimes, and but we should continue this struggle for the justice for Chechen LGBT people. And that is for about Chechnya, and I may say that last 2 years a lot of LGBT organizations worked very hard on this problem, so many others problems are stayed in shadow, so to say. But today I'd like to speak about the organizations themselves, because there are also some points that I think we should discuss today. As a left-wing activist, I would like to start with organizations of the grassroots who fight for LGBT rights on the streets. And the first which comes to my mind is the Alliance of Heterosexual People and LGBT for Equality. The alliance has branches in different Russian cities, but the main one is in St. Petersburg, and I've been in Alliance in Moscow some time ago, and Alliance make different demonstrations, make different events on the dates like the Day of Silence and others. And we always take part in anti-fascist marches, which are held annually in Moscow and St. Petersburg. And we LGBT people come there because they support anti-fascist agenda, so to say. And last year, our organization, Socialist Alternative, we went to this march to support Ali Firuz. I think you know this person. He's a journalist, a migrant and open gay who fled from Uzbekistan, where he was hunted by security services, and he asked Russia for an asylum, but Russia rejected this apply and wanted to deport Ali from Russia, where he just will be killed. And we understood this, and we came to the march with the agenda of Ali Firuz, and we demanded to free him, to let him live in Russia, or to let him go to any other country, but not only Uzbekistan, please. I would like to mention that after a month after this march, where more than 100 people joined us, Ali Firuz was led to flee to Germany. Now he lives there. Okay, I think. And correct me if I'm mistaken. Any other organizations work as a service organizations, but if you know any other street activists, just let me know, please. And these organizations are, I will just mention them, Russian LGBT network. They provide psychological support, maintain the community center in Moscow, and shelter for LGBT people who are in difficult situation. And they work also with LGBT in Chechnya, as I mentioned earlier. Resource, the organization, they also provide psychological support and established different language courses, self-defense courses. In St. Petersburg we have Vyhod, they hold Queer Fest, they have psychological group and many other activities. There is also LGBT Sports Federation. This is an organization for those LGBT who want to take part in some sport activities, but this is only for LGBT, so they can feel free there, and they make annually different competitions between LGBT sport teams. There is also side-by-side film festival who twice a year, once in Moscow, once in St. Petersburg. They show different movies and held discussions on the problems raised in these movies. And Laskai project, they work with the people, with the men having sex with men. They work on HIV prevention, and there are some organizations who provide legal assistance to LGBT. They are STIMUL and Transgender Legal Defense Project. They can help with the different police problems or just to present you in the court and like this. There are, of course, different organizations that I didn't mention, but these are the main ones. And what I would like to say here is that all these organizations just facilitate the comfortable life of LGBT people in Russia. They provide psychological support, they give entertainment, art, different courses, human rights defense, while during these difficult times for LGBT in Russia. However, none of these organizations can provide the real struggle for rights of LGBT community or struggle against the homophobic society, homophobic policy. They do not oppose themselves to our Orthodox Church, which just imposes its influence on people. And as a result, there is no LGBT community which can demand their rights. They just come to these organizations to get something to make their lives easier or more interesting. But we do not have this massive grassroots movement just to fight this situation which I described earlier. And another problem with the existing organization is the dependence of grants from various European and American organizations. There is no doubt that having resources, it's much easier working in Russia because no one wants to work for free. Every work should be paid, but as a result of this grant system, there is an just a moment. There are two points that I want to discuss. The first one is that grants are not given regularly, so running out of money, we can put the organization on the verge of collapse, and a lot of activists just getting frustrated or disappointed with the organization and just burn out and leave the activism. And the second point is that grants are given for special purposes, topics, or special events work. So the organization who applied for these grants, they have to modify their plan of actions, their events, just according to the subject of the grant, but they do not always match the needs of the audience in Russia. I'll just give one example of the difference of the program topics and Russian reality. It was in 2018 Russian LGBT Network Forum. It was held in Moscow, and the declared topic, theme of the festival was the queerness. But the experts who were invited by organizers to give some workshops, lectures or something, they continuously asked queer people, why are you talking about yourself as a woman or man? And we can just imagine the situation when we're on the forum of queer people, experts ask such things. And organizers were contacted and informed about this problem, but they didn't want to do nothing, and they just said that you need to appreciate what you are given and not to complain. And so we can see that the Russian, experts are not ready to speak about queer people, or organizers of this forum didn't find competent people, but this problem took place, and now a lot of queer people say that we do not want to work with this organization because we were offended by them, and it's very hard, I think. And so I believe that self-sponsored and grassroots organizations, they will be more strong from the point that they will be closer to their audience, and also they will be more stable in our system because of the law that the previous lecturer mentioned. We cannot, the organization, non-profit organizations in Russia, they cannot get any funding from foreign organizations, and they are
fees.
They should pay large fees to get it.
Taxes.
Yeah, and also I have to conclude that we have a very hard situation in Russia with LGBT, because a lot of activists who were protesting in 2013 against this propaganda law, they just or burned out or just left Russia because they said that we cannot live in this country. And so we have lost a lot of activists in that time, and now LGBT people are afraid to fight. They are afraid to come out to people, they are afraid to come out to streets or join any organization. And there are a lot of organizations who translate different materials from foreign media. There are some publications of books in Russian, but the desire for real rights that we are talking about in Russia, for example, the cancellation of this law, the legislation of marriages. We cannot get it without real struggle, but people are not ready for that because they get some support for service organizations, and there is no massive movements that we can oppose to our regime. So I have pointed any problems, and if you have any questions or if you want to learn more on any of them, you can ask me, and if you have any thoughts to add here, I will be very glad. Thank you. Yep.
First of all, thank you. And I keep thinking about financing, how to finance projects. I run a queer initiative in St. Petersburg myself, and I got a grant last year, which I didn't get this year, so it's really hard. We have crowdfunding, but it's nearly not enough money to continue work. But you mentioned that self-financing or self-sustaining, and I'm not really sure what you mean, because it's a struggle, right?
Yes, it's a real struggle. Thank you for this question, because now I'm a member of self-sponsored organizations, because we do not get any grants, because those organizations who give these grants, they set the rules, so to say. But we want to live, we want to make our own path to our targets. So we have more than 20 members now, and any member, every one of us just have an amount of money which he or she pays every month. So we sponsor our organization by ourselves, and this year we are planning to get a full-timer, a person who will get salary from our from our monies, which we pay every month. And so this system gives us stability, and we are sure that money will finish sometime, because we do not depend on these grants, So we live by this system.
And what would that person do, the full-time person?
He or she haven't decided yet. They will write some topics for our website, print our magazines, come to different events of our other organizations, and coordinate the work of our organization too.
I have some remark. Can I speak Russian, please? Я вот сталкивался с проблемой, что даже при попытке создать какой-то небольшой шелтер, мы с друзьями хотели создать небольшой шелтер именно для ЛГБТ, бежавших из Чечни. Ну и как бы в принципе там люди были более аполитичны, но просто хотели помочь. Но столкнулись с сильными такими вот неформальными какими-то уже на своем уровне, то есть на уровне чиновничества и юристов средней руки, с даже не давлением, а вот как-то вот непониманием. И вот такое впечатление, что некоторые люди просто побаивались связываться с этим, что нас объявят тех, и у нас, там у нашего партнера есть партнеры чеченцы, и они очень на нас, потому что надо понимать, что чеченцы в России имеют репутацию самой жестокой мафии. Это что-то типа Сицилии.
The question was, the person just mentioned that they tried to make a shelter for LGBTQ plus people from Chechnya in Russia, but they faced a lot of problems because lawyers and people who run places were afraid to help them with that because they were afraid of Chechen mafia, which is, as this person says, widespread across the country.
То есть, любой закон, который работает, вроде бы он даже теоретически может применяться, но чтобы применить его, любой закон, он сталкивается с очень большим того, чтобы, вот этой вот юридической системой, которая его саботирует, как только касается дела ЛГБТ, так или иначе.
А про какой закон вы говорите конкретно?
Там, права человека, то есть я вот, честно говоря, сейчас не знаю.
А что саботирует что? Я просто не поняла немного.
Просто невозможно заставить этот закон работать.
Да, милиция не примет у вас заявление о насилии. Или она у вас примет, но оно останется у них лежать месяц, и они скажут, просто сейчас приходите, сейчас начальника нету, а вас юрист неправильно подписал.
Like the comment is about that the system doesn't work, and if some kind of violence happened, if you go to the police, nothing happens there because they won't take your papers, or they won't believe you, or they will kick you out. So the system doesn't work.
Yeah.
Насколько мне рассказывали ребята из Чечни, которые бежали, у тех, кто за ними приходит, очень отработанная схема: приехать, купить и уехать обратно в свой аул. Где их никто не найдет.
The comment was about like some friends of this person say that some people from Chechnya who violate LGBT plus people, they have this kind of system that they just come to your house, take their people, and then take them to these secret jails or something. If I'm telling this right, I don't know.
Yeah, and the problem of establishing the shelter in Moscow, you mentioned.
It's not in Moscow, it's Podmoskovia.
Okay, in Moscow region. And I know that Russian LGBT network faced this problem too, because there is a problem to find a place to rent a flat or house for these people, because you can when you rent a flat, you should show the people who live there, and in the agreement with the person who gives you this flat, in this agreement you should write the names of people who will live there, and this is very dangerous for those people from Chechnya to leave their real names, to show their passports, and a lot of people who just offer their flats for rent. They are kind of migrant-phobic or something, and they do not likely to give their flats to people from Caucasus regions. And also for LGBT network was very difficult to hide these people, and I know they have established finally this shelter, and they have changed different phone numbers, they have changed different places of living of these people, and it was a very difficult process because you're always working with a big mafia, so to say, because there are a lot of Chechen people who are ready to support Kadyrov and make everything he says just to be good in his opinion. And so they are ready to kill these people, and so they are searching for them in Moscow, for example. And there was a story in St. Petersburg, as far as I remember, that one person from Chechnya, he was preparing for his documents to leave Russia for another country, and his relatives came to the place where he lived. They found them, and he was saved only by the fact that some activists called the police and forced police to come and to defend this person. In another way, he was just could be killed, but they managed to defend this person. And it's a real struggle to defend all these people.
Но вот на твой взгляд, какие стратегии сейчас могут быть эффективны в силу того, что очень острая политическая ситуация, мы не можем рассчитывать на массовые протесты, как мы можем солидаризироваться, то есть что было бы эффективно сейчас предпринять, когда даже публично ты не можешь говорить о своей идентичности. Вот. Что ты можешь сказать про активистское сообщество и вообще классное?
The question was about which strategies can we use to effectively fight this problem in a case where LGBTQ people can't openly speak about their identities in Russia.
I think that the most successful strategy is solidarity, and solidarity not only of LGBT people, but solidarity of trade unions, I don't know, our parents, our co-workers, solidarity of all the people, because without a strong community which declares their rights and demand them, we cannot get anything, because we cannot ask our authorities just to let us live here. We cannot ask them to change the law, because they won't listen us if there are 20 of us or 30 of us. But if there will be thousands or tens of thousands of us, they will hear us, and they will do some changes in this system. So the solidarity of our communities, for example, we are left-wing organizations, and we can collaborate together to fight this system, because LGBT is not the one problem, because there are a strong women agenda because of in the decriminalization of beating women in Russia, as the previous lecturer said, there is a huge problem of medical workers, of teachers, of students, and all these groups are struggling by any means, by any reasons, and we should collaborate all together. We cannot fight only for LGBT people. We should fight for all the problems that we have. And the one solution is the change of our state leader for the first, and the change of this system. And we should make them follow the laws that we have and cancel the laws we are not satisfied with. And we can only do it all together when we will be the numerous, so to say. Any question? Yeah?
Thank you very much for this presentation. I have a question, and I would like to hear your opinion about the connection between the Russian nationalism and homophobia. I remember in 2013 when there was this change, that especially in the German electoral magazines and articles, there was this idea that the reasoning why the Putin administration is pushing this law is like connected to the fact that it is part of this nation building, a nationalistic building of positioning Russia as something different than Greek and gay Europe and this thing. And do you think that there is a Russian nationalism without homophobia, and what is the reason that it came out in 2013? Was there like a special like time-wise reason for this?
Thank you for this question. I think that this year, 2013, it wasn't special or something. They were preparing the ground for this law previously, after Putin came to his position, and they were strengthening these nationalist ideas, and we can see that earlier and now they do not prohibit, for example, the concerts of different nationalist bands, music bands, I mean, and they, in these ways, they support these nationalistic people groups, and now they feel that how to say, they won't be punished, so they can do more. They feel that LGBT people, or for example different oppressed groups like migrants or different national minorities, they are oppressed by the state, so they can oppress them too, and they feel themselves very strong in this fight, because it's very easy to oppress those who are already oppressed. And in 2013 there were very hard attacks on LGBT activists and LGBT and left activists, anti-fascists. They were defending their positions very hard too. But now nationalists become stronger because a lot of LGBT activists have burned out and moved from Russia to different countries, and so we can see the result of this, because we are very small groups, the LGBT communities or organizations, they are very small and weak, and while it's I don't want to say that, but it's cool to be nationalist in the opinion of our state, because you just propagandize the ideas of the state policy. So a lot of young people join the movements, and they are strengthening, and that's very sad.